You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is a December 7th, 2022 meeting of the LaPorte County Commission. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the LaPorte County Commission meeting for Wednesday, December 7th. We are in the county complex, and we're glad that you're here. We're going to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Our veteran commissioner is going to speak about a moment of silence.
After the pledge, if we could have a moment of silence, please, for the over 2,400 Americans who lost their lives on this date in 1941 on the attack at Pearl Harbor.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that reminder that we must never forget.
Never forget.
Never forget. Next, we have roll call, please.
Commissioner Mrzinski,
Present.
Commissioner Matias,
Present.
Commissioner Haney.
Present.
All three present.
Thank you. Next, we'd like to consider the agenda. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions?
Madam President, we do have two additions. We have a request from Erica Stallworth from Juvenile Services Center, and also a request from Eric Beatty from Community Corrections, and they will both explain that. We've all got copies of that. I'm sure you've had a chance to look them over. They will be up under department heads to see if there's any questions about it. So I would add those two and approve the agenda as amended.
Second to amend the agenda.
We have a motion and a second to amend the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Agenda has been approved. Next, we have consider approval of November 16th, 2022 minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of November 16th, 2022. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion has carried. Next, we have consideration of claims.
Commissioners, we have payroll for the period ending 11/18/22 in the amount of $1,303,113.21, and for the period ending 12/2/2022, $1,303,932.63, and then we have operating expense claims of $1,979,111.08. I would like to ask for your consideration in adding two additional items: a 916 non-litigation bill from Friedman Associates in the amount of $61.95, and then also, while this has not been audited yet, by my office, the 1017 litigation bill in the amount of $20,085. Just briefly, by way of clarifying for both the public and the commission itself, the process as it stands on how bills flow through the county, the auditor's office, is that the department head approves the bills. Then they come to the auditor's office for audit, and then placed on your claim docket, which is at your meeting today for approval. You approve them, and then they're paid. So that's the process. Thank you.
Motion to approve payroll and operating expense claims as presented.
Second.
Are you including the?
So we've
I think you presented.
as amended. Yes, the claims
As amended.
Okay. All right.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have public comment. Are there any members of the public, either present or on Zoom, that would like to speak at this time?
Good morning, everyone. Rodney McCormick, 617 Union Street, Michigan City. I just want to say thank you to a couple of public servants that lost their reelection bids. I want to start with you, Ms. Mateus. We don't agree on everything. Sometimes it got to the point where it was disrespectful. And I hope that we both learned something out of that, that we shouldn't be conducting the business of the public the way we did. It's so easy for us to criticize you and criticize public servants. Being one is hard. As the head of the president of the Michigan City Housing Authority Board, I've already took on a lot of scrutiny about things that way things go on. Be that as it may, I just want to thank you for your service, being a public servant, Ms. Mateus. I know you did the best you can do under the situations that you was in. I greatly appreciate that. I also want to thank John Lake and Mary Lake. I think we lost one of the best prosecutors that we had in LaPorte County. And I'm 55 years old. We came a long way from what it used to be. And I just feel that we might move, we're definitely going to end up going backwards. I just want to thank those guys. They did an awesome job as well. And then the obvious elephant in the room is the Democratic Party. We sacrifice trying to get one person into office, and it hurts so many others. This is not who we should be. We must do better. We look at greed as a mean of saying it's okay to do what we're doing right now. We lost John Lake in the process of not supporting the whole Democratic Party. I just try to keep it brief as possible. Democratic Party in LaPorte County is in bad shape right now. But with the new people that's coming on, be it Republican, Libertarian, whatever you are, I hope that we all learn lessons about how things need to run in our county. We have to communicate with each other. We can't continue to fight and bicker with one another in public. It has to stop. People are looking at us, they're laughing at us. Good people are constantly getting hurt. There's going to be a lot of people leaving office or losing their positions because of personal grudges. We can do better. That day hasn't came yet. The first of the year will be that day. People that need to be promoted should be promoted. People that shouldn't be here shouldn't get rid of them. Change is change. I hope that this county, we can do better. We must do better. Voting turnout in Michigan City is terrible. I've been crying and complaining about it for years. Nothing's being done about it. I guess the good news is that the Democrats will be choosing new leaders here shortly. I appreciate each and every one of you guys, including you, Rich. But the time is now. You can leave on a high note, or you can keep bickering and arguing with everybody and threatening people, and we threatening you back. And there's no right and wrongs in this. We all wrong. These last 4 years have been rough. And I hope that we all learned the lesson in this and we can move on. We be more cordial with each other. You can disagree with someone and you don't have to disrespect them. And that's what we need to learn. That's what I've learned in this process. Sadly though, I just have to say this and I'll just leave it at this. Mr. Freeman, I'm not sad to see you leave. I finally got the opportunity. I prayed that I would get this opportunity to see you walk out that door. You have divided our community. You have turned the blacks against one another, and it's sad. Ms. Mateus, thank you for giving me for my comments, but it's something I want to get off my chest. I will not be at the next meeting, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak at this time?
Connie Grammarosa, Councilwoman and Commissioner-elect. 2 weeks ago, let me explain first of all, every 2 years, there's a chance that this commission changes. 2 weeks ago, a contract was signed with Elko for 3 years. I wasn't going to come up here and I wasn't going to say anything about it. I thought it was wrong because it ties the hands of the next two administrations. I think when you're signing these contracts, knowing that every 2 years there's a possibility that the administration can change, you should not be signing contracts for 3 years ahead of you. Like I said, I wasn't going to say anything, but when I saw the request on the agenda 9A, and you're requesting to hire a lobbyist. This lobbyist is supposed to be, and you know, what you put out there was for a VA outpatient clinic. What it really is, it's a pork bill. Everybody got to put their pork inside this bill. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to push this through. Other things that are included in here, and this is according to your contract here, is technology for LaPorte County Sheriff's Department. Yes, I think that's a good one. Purdue Northwest in Westville. Miss Mateus, you are an employee there. Mm-hmm. You are going to sign a contract or approve for lobbying for your employer where you work. I do believe that you need to recuse yourself from this vote. Renovations and equipment for Northwest Health in LaPorte. Since when do the taxpayers have to take the responsibility of paying to lobby for private corporations? I went ahead and I did a little research. Purdue themselves paid $320,000 for lobbying themselves. Why are you asking the taxpayers to pay $7,000 a month to lobby for this corporation that you work for? The hospital, $380,000 in lobbying bill. I know that $84,000 a year doesn't sound like a lot compared to what they're already paying for, but to strap the taxpayers to pay for private companies, I believe is wrong. You have 16 working days left on this administration. And for you to shove this through right now, I believe is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to add also, you know what? We elected Senator Todd Young, Senator Mike Braun, State Representative Pressel, and State Senator Bohachik. That's their job, to lobby for us, to bring money back to us. And for us to hire a lobbyist, I just don't see the need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak at this time?
Good morning, Commissioner Spencer England. Also, remembering Pearl Harbor, how we were attacked. Like I've said several times, I served a long time in the military, and one of the things that they did before they attacked us was they played a trick on our commanders. They thought we were going to be on, or they played off they were going to be on one front. They came in and hit us from another area. And I agree with Mr. McCormick when he says, I want to believe that in my heart, but on the same front, to honor those men and women you and I served with, Rich. When I'm hearing about this situation with this lobbyist, and I see what the payroll is going to be for this person in honor of those men who fought for this country, and we might sometimes, some people see soldiers as uneducated, or they say they're important, but are they really important? Well, those guys died. Those planes hit those boats. They died. And in honor of them, somebody has to stand up and say something. And what I want to talk about is the very essence of what people were discussing a couple months ago when they said there's no corruption in LaPorte government. We did a survey, we did a study, we did a grand jury. And I know what an attorney sees on paperwork and what they say, this is the definition of corruption, and it's not here. But what the average taxpayer feels every day and every year when they pay their taxes or see their paychecks, they know what corruption is. And it comes in the form of nepotism and cronyism. And when people see if people haven't seen this and this contract, you need to look at it, because the pork barrel is there. You have a person being looked at for a job where they're going to make $80,000 paid for by the taxpayer. What are the qualifications of that person? Has anyone else been looked at for that job other than this certain group? Is there anybody else in our area that may take less money? Because I'm telling you, I looked at what the qualification is for this job, or at least what this job is going to entail. I did contract negotiations for companies that did $300 million a year in sales. I'll do this job for $5,000 a month. So right there, you're already saving $20,000 a year. And I'm not wanting the job, but my point is, pushing something like this through is the exact corruption that taxpayers are talking about when they see it. It doesn't have to be a definition in a Webster dictionary. When people are wined and dined by people, when people are pushed through because they have a name, and I'm not going to say 100% of surety that's what's going on, but when I see names here, when I see the situation where they're trying to push it as a VA clinic, who wouldn't want that? I'd be nice in LaPorte County. We're a large county. But the simple fact is there's a lot more in there than just that. And I really, really hope this gets put out for consideration for everyone to look at. Doesn't get pushed through by those who are leaving, and also doesn't just get pushed through by those who may be directly involved. There is money that can be saved here, and we don't even know that we need a lobbyist for these things. There are people we've already hired for them who get a federal and state paycheck for this. So all I'm saying is we really need to look at this situation before this gets shoved through. I don't care who knows who, but this is do you want to talk about definitions in Webster's dictionary? This is the exact definition of nepotism and cronyism, and it is the definition of what the taxpayers consider corruption. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak at this time?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Randy Beach, 4177 West Schultz Road. I was on the receiving end of another rant by an appointed employee of the LaPorte County government. The self-proclaimed wrecking ball of truth spent a couple of hours on Facebook letting everyone reading know that he didn't like me. Mike Poland's rants against me were not his first. He has done it in emails and while standing here, making the same false claims against me, always bringing up a group. I have no idea what this group is or where it comes from. Now he does this while being on the clock, paid for by the taxpayers on Facebook. Let's start with him by saying, I quote, Mr. Veach is constantly and maliciously wrong 98% of what he posts. When asked for an example, he says, yes, the operation's allowed by zoning and there are no zoning violation. He states it shows no malicious postings or anything that could support his claim. One would believe that if he had facts, he would show them. He already made the claim. He continues by stating up until 2022, the site is compliant with the MS4. We all know what this is about, the sand mine. He says the site was compliant up to the 2022, and that contrary to what Randy says, it's unpermitted. When asked for a copy of the permit number, Mr. Poland wrote, the contractor has, however, exceeded the scope of the work and allowed and has since become non-compliant with the MS4 permit. You gave the non-compliant writing to him. The industrial mining operation is still doing the same thing today. As I went by it today, they were tracking out again. They're selling clean fill, trucking it out to area construction projects, hauling in materials. Does anybody even check what's being hauled in? Does anybody oversee what these companies are hauling in? Well, when I've been told, no. I would continue on this verbal attack, but I'm sure some of you have already read it on Facebook, and you can all easily find it on Facebook. I'm limited to minutes, while the conversation while department heads are allowed all the time they want. I believe Mr. Poland was speaking for and representing LaPorte County just by the fact he was doing it while on the payroll. When I asked Mr. Poland, "Are we getting billed by the attorneys as well with this work?" I respond with a quote: "Being a keyboard warrior and taking personal jabs at my household fall under what section of the code book?" Mr. Poland then made some comments about being confused with all the postings that were coming in and just asked for a new post just to cover comments he had been giving. Kimberly Mann granted his wish. She asked him questions and made one request for paperwork. This is her breakdown of the conversation. 851 words were used in answers 1 through 8 regards to my questions, being Kimberly Mann's, concerning the sand mining in LaPorte County. Nearly half of those words, 403, were used to explain to me that Mr. Poland does not like Mr. Veach and or his actions, but no specific reason. Why, instead of utilizing the time to depict the facts of the case concerning the sand mining on 400 West, unfortunately Mr. Poland refused to answer further questions on that forum, even though he requested it. I could continue going on, and it's just Mr. Poland's attacks against me on the payroll. There's a whole page I'm skipping by because I can see you're probably getting pissed that I'm talking over my 3 minutes. I have personally never met Kimberly Mann. I do read again. Oh, there was one comment on here where Kimberly Mann is now becoming part of a group, and she questions, what group? I personally never met Kimberly Mann. I do read that Mr. Poland is making claims of a group now against her as well, attacking another citizen while representing LaPorte County government. Let me finish this by talking about the stop work order. It has not stopped the work. The work is being performed, the fill is being mined, loaded on truck, and delivered. This hasn't changed since the operation began in 2015. It's the same thing. Soils, concrete, and other minerals are being trucked back in and dumped. This hasn't changed since the industrial job began. We did discover here in the last couple of weeks that the location and delivery point of the fill material and the job site, a pickup point of the material that are unwanted at that site. Why would we want them in our residential area? If they don't want them there, why do we want them? The job site, it is a sewage and water infrastructure improvement for the Love's Truck Stop and Convenience Store. This is a project being overseen by LaPorte County. So here we have LaPorte County putting a stop work order on an excavating company for doing what it is doing. Next we have LaPorte County buying spec'd material. It's spec'd in the specs of this job by LaPorte County. To buy the same fill from the excavation company that has the stop work order on it. Then we allow the excavation company to dump unwanted materials back in a residential neighborhood. This is happening while we pay 2 law firms, not one, but 2 law firms, according to the Wrecking Ball of Truth, hundreds of thousands of dollars. One saying they want the sand mining, one saying they want the sand mining to stop, the other one saying it's not sand because it's not washed. All this while the law firms have approved specs. You've read the specs. We know BG has read the specs of what the material is. They know what the material is. They know it has to be excavated, which is mining. I don't understand how LaPorte County can say it has a stop work order on a business when they continue to let the business, they're the sole source of who's buying it right now. They're the sole source of letting him haul it back, material back in and dump it. He's the sole source of all the contamination on our roads right now. Why are we doing nothing to stop this? With that, I guess I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Veach. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak at this time? Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to speak? Okay. All right, let's move on. Next on the agenda, we have department head comments. We have a couple department heads that have requested to be, but Larry, come on up. That's fine.
Good morning, Commissioners. Larry Lewandowski, Director of Facilities. I just wanted to take a moment this morning to thank some people. As you noticed on Thanksgiving, we lit up the courthouse lawn with all the Christmas lights. And I wanted to take a moment to thank Marcus Electric for the wreaths that they put up for us, all of the housekeepers with all the great work they do on the inside of the buildings with the Christmas trees, and all the maintenance crew with all the work they did on the outside. It's, we've got a wonderful courthouse over there. The lights, look wonderful around it, and they're a big part of what we do in LaPorte, and I want to make sure publicly I thanked every one of them.
Thanks, it looks great.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Any other department heads wish to speak?
Marika Beatty, Director, LaPorte County Community Corrections. I would like to thank the Board of Commissioners as well as the County Auditor, our County Attorney, and everyone else for the grace that you have shown LaPorte County Community Corrections throughout this year. I did extend a request to you all, and if you have any questions, I'd like to answer those at this time.
I have no questions. It sounds like a reasonable request in regards to your residential coordinator and getting him, making sure that he's compensated appropriately.
I've read your request and I agree with you 100%, and I would make a motion that we approve your request.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the request from LaPorte County Community Corrections, Executive Director Beatty. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other department heads who wish to speak at this time?
Does he want to go first?
Erica, why don't you go next with
Sure.
your request? Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Erica Stallworth, Executive Director, LaPorte County Juvenile Services Center. I sent in a letter, and I'm just here to answer any questions, but basically we have, as all the departments are seeing, short staff, and so my staff are unable to take a scheduled vacation and holiday time, and so they've accrued quite a bit of holiday time. I've looked through the policy and I haven't seen anything that specifically talks about carrying over holiday time into the new year. So I'm respectfully requesting that I be able to pay out the holiday time that staff have accrued over 5 days, because we do have it in our budget. And so it wouldn't create any type of issue at all.
Motion to approve the request by Eric Stallworth.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the request to pay out. It's already in their budget for the Juvenile Services Center. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Just one more question. I apologize. Do I need to go before the council as well or no?
No, you have it in your budget, so you should be
All
fine.
right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Any other department heads who wish to speak at this time?
Nicole Messaker, MS4 Director. I have two things. I have a request, so I'm wondering if I can do that now during my department head comments. First, I wanted to just give you an update. We are now 6 months, I am 6 months into the first year of our new permit. It's a 5-year permit cycle. So I wanted to just give you an update as to where we're at with that. This right here is our stormwater quality management plan. You can see it's a beast of a document. It was written in 2004 when LaPorte County was first designated as an MS4 community. It hasn't been comprehensively updated since then. So one of the requirements for this current permit cycle is to update this monster. So that's what I've been working on. I'm going to put in a request for a continuance. It's due January 5th, I think. But I'm going to request an extension because it's a big document and there's a lot that needs to go in there. So I've been working through 6 minimum control measures, which are the requirements of our permit. As you're aware, there's kind of 2 permits. There's our general permit that the county holds, and then there's the construction stormwater general permit that applies to contractors working within the county. They have to be in compliance for us to be in compliance. So we've been working through those minimum control measures. The first one is public education, public outreach, public involvement. Those all got combined into one minimum control. So I'm working with our previous partners that were part of the MS4 co-op, which now we're all separate. We have our own permits. And I'm working with Attorney DiMartino to create an ordinance that will determine how we use the funds that were put into that account by all those entities to create a comprehensive public education, public involvement, public outreach plan that'll hopefully serve the needs of all the communities that paid into it. We've been working on our construction program, which is our third requirement in this minimum control measure. So we've been catching up with what projects are out there, making sure all of our forms are updated to reflect the new permit, to make sure that everybody is getting us what they need to get us so that they're in compliance, so that we're in compliance. We've updated the website. I've been working extensively with Sarah Solutions to get all of our forms embedded into our website so people can just go onto the website, fill out the applications, and they go straight to my inbox. We're working on our municipal facilities. Reggie's here today, so we're going to start doing some inspections of our municipal facilities to make sure that they're all in compliance with our permit. And I've been working with Mike Poland and the Planning Commission to update our joint zoning ordinance. Probably in February we'll address that to make sure that everything that's in there reflects our current permit, so that we're not missing something just by not having it in the ordinance. I think that's kind of, in a nutshell, an overview of what we've been working on. And my request today is to update what we call our site development plan, our fees, so that when folks issue a permit or they request a permit, I have to review their plan. Sometimes that takes days. And then we also have to inspect those sites periodically. Before they start, we do a pre-construction meeting to make sure that everything's in place so we don't have to go backwards. It's always better to have everything correct at the beginning instead of going back and making them tear out a construction entrance or something because it wasn't right. So we meet at the beginning, we do mid project inspections, and then there's a post inspection to make sure that everything is done, it's all seeded, there's no mud, it looks good, and then they can file for their termination with item. Right now, that fee is $100 per disturbed acre of soil. We've added the Permatrack inspection software so that the contractors can just do their inspections on their phones when they're in the field. They don't have to print out a form, hand fill it out, fax it, or scan it and send it back to me. But there is a fee associated with that program. So I'm asking to change or update our site development fee from $100 per disturbed acre of soil to $200 per disturbed acre of soil to compensate for the amount of inspections that we need to do, and also for that inspection system that I also use as well when I do the inspections.
That would need to be approved by the council. I'd make a motion that you can approach the council with that recommendation.
Okay. The council told me I didn't need to. They told me that the commissioner set fees, and so we don't need to.
In that case, I'd make a motion that you go ahead and do it now.
Okay. Thank you.
We have a motion to update the MS4 permit and construction stormwater general permit fees.
Madam President, generally it is whoever the director department has anything else, including elected officials, the Board of Commissioners authorize and are authorized signers for any of the contracts that LaPorte County enters into. So item 2 on here, where we are pre-authorizing the director to enter into agreements with third-party internet web services providers for the process of what we're talking about here. So far, the past 2 years, we've always had any of those department heads or anything, once they have a contract, bring it to us so we can approve it and we can sign it. So, for example, the permitting system that was done for the highway department with, I believe it's an ox cart they use, our highway director came up with that, brought it to us, and we were the ones who actually signed and approved the agreement. I don't think we're being consistent here if we leave number 2 in here.
Commissioner Haney, just to address that, you did sign the contract with the Permatrack, the inspection system. Mm-hmm. The commissioners did sign that contract. I would say that this ordinance, I think, Sean, maybe you can kind of help with that, was drafted prior to that contract. So I don't know that I agree with you. I mean, I don't know that that's a big...
No, I mean, on this, and I think what we can do is perhaps clarify that, because Commissioner Haney's right, all contracts have to be, have signature affixed by the commissioners. I would suggest amending number 2 to the MS4 director is authorized to negotiate various agreements subject to approval by the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah, I think
so that it's absolutely clear that the commissioners have to have final sign off on any of these contracts.
I think what this point was more getting at was the use of these third-party services to make this process work. But yeah, I agree with you.
So I would make an amendment to Commissioner Werdzinski's motion to include the verbiage our attorney just gave forward.
And this would be an ordinance, so you're looking to adopt it either on first or second reading or both, depending on the will of the body.
Second the amendment.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to amend the language of the ordinance on first reading. Let's approve the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So we have approved the amended ordinance on first reading. What is the sense of the commission as to whether we should pass it on first and second reading today? We can do that, or we can come back at our next meeting.
Probably hold it over to the next meeting just
Okay. So let's consider it on first reading today and then carry it over. So all those in favor of the permit change on first reading signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried, and we will pass it to second reading at our next meeting. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your explanation.
You're welcome.
Are there any other department heads who wish to speak at this time? Okay. Hello, Jeremy.
Hey, Jared.
Hi, this is Jeremy from the Parks Department. Just had a little bit of an update. Both playgrounds at the new playground at Red Mill. No, I know it's a horrible time of year to be saying a playground's open, but the playground at Red Mill was completed last week, and we had our inspection. Have a few minor things to do, but it is open to the public. Two playgrounds at Creek Ridge are all the implements are installed, and our crew is finishing up the border around the outside, and then we'll be finishing up the mulch probably this week or next week. Hard to say depending on this rain coming in, but wanted to thank the commission, the council, Healthcare Foundation, and our Park Foundation for funding and approving those projects. I think, when you replace a 20 to 25-year-old playground, it's exciting for the kids and for the community, really, because we see increase in the visitation to the parks and people getting out and getting active. So we'll be doing some grand openings in the spring on those, but when we can depend on more people to come out. But just wanted to say thanks and let people know those will be open to the public very soon, and the one at Red Mill already is. So thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. Those playgrounds are such a great improvement.
Thank you.
Any other department heads who wish to speak? I'm sorry? Oh, Mike Pullen. Okay, Mr. Pullen?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hi. Just to respond to the comment about the social media. First of all, I stand by every single thing that was said.
Mr. Pullen, if you will, I'd be more than happy to respond to some of the social media stuff, department head comments, if you would like. So you don't have to.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Madam President, if I may.
Sure.
Sure. All right. Thank you. Something brought up earlier in public comment surrounding some posts on Facebook as far as trying to answer folks' questions as either an employee or department head through their personal Facebook page on Facebook, getting into some drawn out things. So I had asked our director to disengage from some of those Facebook posts and ask any members of the public to please take their questions and follow up with them on through the county email server. Several reasons for that. First is that conducting business through a personal Facebook page on Facebook, whether you're on or off county time, just really isn't appropriate. It can lead into some different things. And the other side of it is, just in case there's ever any APA request, Freedom of Information Act type things, it becomes very difficult for the county as well to dive through personal social media pages and try and search that information and gather those things up. So I had directed our director to disengage from social media in regards to any work-related postings that he's answering taxpayers' questions, our citizens' questions, but to make sure to inform them that please follow up with these questions, anything via county email, and answer them fully and as best as he could. So that's where that came from. I know, kind of looking at how this played out, I think next year we're going to look into some kind of social media policy in regards to employees using their private social media to interact in an official capacity. I think maybe we might have a public communications director, something along those lines, to help interface with the public. And again, anytime any member of the public has any questions, you can feel free to reach out to whatever department and whatever it is, please, via the county email, or you can obviously make a phone call to the county offices as well. And it's probably best to go through those routes just for a number of the reasons that I went through. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other department heads who wish to speak at this time? All right, let's move on. We're moving on in the agenda to number 9, which is requests. Consider possible engagement of Washington, D.C. governmental advocacy firm of Irvin Graves to advocate for appointment for a VA outpatient clinic for LaPorte and other projects. Who would like to speak to? Would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, we have on Zoom Allison Ficus, who works for that firm, who we've had several meetings to discuss this. It's gotten to the point, it's pretty well known. I've been trying to get a veterans clinic in LaPorte County for a while. Right now, our veterans go either to Crown Point or to Mishawaka. It's a long way. I would estimate 6,000 to 7,000 veterans would utilize this facility in LaPorte County. It's even been, I'm sure Allison will expound on that, how it's been actually suggested by Congress that LaPorte County be a place for a veterans clinic. So this is coming from Congress, not from me. Allison?
Yeah, so I thought I would start off by introducing myself. My name is Allison Ficus. I'm a senior vice president at Irvin Graves Strategy Group, which is a government affairs firm based in Washington, D.C. I live and work in Washington, D.C., but I'm actually a LaPorte high school graduate. I graduated in 2010, received my undergraduate in political science, my master's in economics, was a Fulbright scholar, and then worked in Congress for a number of years, first as a policy advisor for Congresswoman Barbara Comstock, and then most recently for a policy advisor for Senator Mike Braun. Now I work here at Irvin Graves under the tutelage of our CEO, former Congressman Tom Graves, also a Republican from the state of Georgia. And what I've proposed to LaPorte is kind of 3 different projects that we can work on. The first one is a VA outpatient clinic in LaPorte, which, as Rich alluded to, was in part recommended by Congress. How it worked is in 2017, Congress passed the VA Mission Act, which included an assessment of their facilities and a process to recommend expansion, new clinics, as well as closures. And so that list of recommendations was produced by the VA this past year, and it included creating an outpatient clinic in LaPorte County. It mentioned LaPorte by name. Unfortunately, those recommendations needed to be approved by a commission that was confirmed by the Senate. That commission was never confirmed by the Senate, so doesn't exist, and meaning that the projects that were recommended by the VA have been halted. So my proposal includes different strategies that we can implement, including using our members of Congress and our senators to put pressure on the VA to rectify this situation, possibly introduce new bills to fast track recommendations in that report, such as recommendations pertaining to mental health, which would include the outpatient clinic in LaPorte and such. There's a variety of different strategies. Now, I did want to clarify the other 2 projects I suggested as part of the contract would first be, I have a colleague who specializes in grant writing, and so could help LaPorte navigate the grant process at the federal and state level, as well as hold LaPorte County's hand through that process, helping create a narrative to better receive those grants. Now, the third project that I recommended is a couple of years ago, the Committee to Modernize Congress created something called Community funding projects. So that way, Congress, as a part of their appropriations bill every year, could fund projects, members of Congress could fund projects in their community, as long as they were suggested by nonprofit organizations or state and local governments, such as LaPorte County. Now, that process is a little bit convoluted. You can't ask for just any project. They have to fit within certain buckets, and then there's a pretty long application process that goes with it. And so those were kind of the 3 areas that in my contract I suggest that Irvin Graves work on for LaPorte County. Now, Connie talked about a variety of different projects I suggested that we could work on That's not actually in the contract. That is in a letter I wrote to LaPorte County that outlined details of my firm, myself, as well as those three parts of the contract. And I gave examples. So, for example, we could get new technology for police officers. We could work with the university or health, but it could also be infrastructure projects. I know that there's a bridge that has caused a lot of headaches. And so it would really be up to the county commission to decide specifically what additional projects that they'd want me to work on, which I'm happy to work with Connie and Joe in January to decide more specifics of those projects. And you know, the other thing too is if you guys need more time to talk with me one-on-one, I'm also happy to do that if that's what the commission decides to do today. So that's just a little bit of background about me, my firm, as well as what I've actually proposed to LaPorte County. And I hope that's helpful, and happy to answer any additional questions.
So to be clear, the mention of I work for Purdue Northwest, and Commission-elect Grammarosa mentioned that would be a conflict, but you're saying it is not in the there's nothing about Purdue Northwest in the contract. Those were suggested local areas of important projects that could be considered.
Exactly. Like if there's a project that you want to do with Purdue Northwest, that would be an eligible project I could work on. That's not exact. I'm sorry, that might be my fault for how I worded the letter. But I was just saying that if you look at the projects that were funded in previous Congress, nothing went to LaPorte County. And I think we're just leaving money on the table from the federal government. And so it could be a project with the university or with the hospital. It could also be with the police. It could be with infrastructure. It could be with bringing broadband to more rural areas of the county. There's kind of an endless list of projects. And so I can meet with the commissioners. I have a PowerPoint presentation on those accounts that are open. And it's up to you guys to decide, yes, this is projects that we've been struggling to fund or struggling to get off the ground. This would be a great way. This would be a great area for Irvin Graves to work on. So there's three projects here. One is the VA outpatient clinic. 2 is grant writing services. And 3rd is this community project fund where you guys decide what projects you want us to work on. And we will go ahead and coach you through and run with it and make sure that you're navigating the sometimes confusing congressional process to get those funds.
Thank you.
Yeah, when I've been working on this project for a couple of years, but when I first started talking with Allison, when we actually met in LaPorte with all the other veterans organizations in LaPorte, the VFWs, American Legions, DAV, and with our veteran service officer. And I realized then that we were at a point where I can't get this done on my own or with the help of the VFW, American Legion. I do know from my 9 years as chairman of the National Legislative Committee for Veterans of Foreign Wars, where I met in Washington, D.C. with all 9 congressmen and both U.S. senators 18 times. And I know over those 9 years, we got a lot of things done. But if you've never been in that position, you have to realize when I go to meet with the congressman, I'm waiting for the people ahead of me who are lobbying for something. And then after you meet with the congressman for 10 to 12, 15 minutes, depending who it is, they'll come in and notify your other people are here. It's like all day. They're meeting with different organizations. Everybody wants the congressman's attention for a particular project. I've been there to lobby for things for veterans. And like I said, over those 9 years, we did make a lot of progress. When we talked about bringing a clinic to LaPorte, because of LaPorte County veterans that have to go to Crown Point, which I used to have to take my father-in-law there, and my uncle there. It's not a fun trip. Place is really crowded. And I worked on Congressman Donnelly and later Senator Donnelly's staff for 10 years to get the clinic in Mishawaka, which is an awesome place. That's where I go, and a lot of people go there. There are young veterans in LaPorte County who are not signed up with the VA, and they find out as they get older that they wish they would have because of things that come up. And now it makes Joe and George's job a little bit harder. They have to substantiate the fact that they were in the military and that they did have issues and get them in the program, and they've missed out on a lot. Having a clinic in LaPorte, we estimate 6,000 to 7,000 veterans would utilize that. That's a huge economic impact alone on LaPorte County. Plus, you're helping veterans who right now, they're not in the program, and they need to be in the program. Veterans entitlements have come a really long way in the last few years. We have people in Congress right now who are paying attention to veterans and who want to help veterans. They want to do things. And when Congress themselves recommends that we need to have a clinic in LaPorte County, all right, that says something. We've got the help in Congress that we need. But it's for me to deal with the different staffs for Congressman Braun, Congressman Mervan, Senator Young. I lost my best ally in Congresswoman Jackie Walorski. It's tough work. But when you have a firm who specializes in this sort of thing and who are in D.C., they have the ear of the congressman on a daily basis if that's what they need. After meeting with Allison and her other folks there, and myself and Randy Novak and Joe Golick, our veteran service officer, we all came away saying, this is the help we need. This is the help that will get this done. We can help our veterans, not only LaPorte County, but surrounding areas, to have a clinic right here in town. And to me, to have that done would be an amazing thing. Of all the things that we've accomplished in LaPorte County over the last 15 years that I've been involved, this to me would be the biggest plus to help my fellow veterans. And I've said it before, the freedom has a taste that veterans recognize that the protected will never know. You have to be a veteran to understand a veteran. And this is something that has come about that I look as a gift to LaPorte County and LaPorte County veterans. And having talked with Randy Novak, I have a really strong feeling that guys on the council will see the value and worth of doing this for our veterans. I would like to make a motion that we approve this on first reading. Give us a chance to actually sit down, maybe in a workshop with the council, and have Allison give her presentation, which was very informative. The presentation was really awesome. Really answered a lot of questions. These people who specialize in exactly what we need. So I would make the motion that we approve the this engagement with Irvin Graves on first reading, to be discussed with the council at a later date.
Perhaps just procedurally, maybe endorsing the concept, since it can't be effective anyway until there's funding by the council, and you would need a final draft of a contract to come back before the commission anyway. What you've got in front of you, simply a draft. It's a proposal, but perhaps going on record endorsing the concept, forwarding it on to the council, and then, as you say, proposing a joint workshop.
Sounds reasonable to me. I would make that motion.
Thank you. So we have a motion to consider this engagement, pass it to the council for funding, and then suggest a joint workshop in the future for the council and the commission. Do we have a second?
No, I'm trying to wrap my mind around the idea that he wants to pass I guess, this motion of support, so to speak, to get funding for something that we don't even know necessarily what they're going to lobby for. I mean, everybody sees a value in a VA clinic. As you remember, roughly a year ago, my brother passed. He's a combat wounded veteran, and he passed away much too young in life. One of his living requirements, or one of his sets for where he decided to live was in relation to where a VA hospital was. He passed away in part to some of the injuries and maladies he sustained from multiple combat tours. So I definitely see the value, and especially in bringing a clinic to LaPorte County. Several of the issues that I have is we have something that's very vague in front of us. There's no way I'd want to ask the council to fund something that we haven't decided on what we're actually going to be doing with it. The other is, I mean, I think we've got best intentions here, but when the public looks at something like renovations or equipment for Northwest Health, CHS is a $12 billion with a B, billion-dollar company. They made tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in profit, not just what they wrote off in all their capital asset expenses and improvements, so they could lower their taxable income rate. But they make more money in profit per year than the entire budget of LaPorte County combined, and doing something to lobby on their behalf is just, and again, I know this is just a suggestion, but when we have these sort of broad, vague suggestions that you want us to move forward with, it makes absolutely no sense. There's no way I can look at the taxpayers in the eye and say, hey, yeah, we're going to spend money to lobby for a $12 billion company. It's preposterous. Same thing with Purdue Northwest. That's, Purdue Northwest, part of Purdue, it's a large organization. They spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year lobbying Congress. Why are we going to spend additional money for them? It doesn't make sense. There's no way I can support what we see here in front of us or even recommend it coming forward. We need to have something much better, much more delineated, and know exactly what we're doing before we even recommend trying to send this for pre-approval for funding. It simply does not make sense.
So I don't think we're suggesting that a pre-approval for funding. We're suggesting that the concept be moved forward to a joint session, workshop with Allison and her firm and with the future commission and the future council, so that we can keep kicking the ball down the field a little and get it closer to being a possibility. There's no requirement in this cover letter that I can see that we have to fund anything in particular as a county. And in fact, Allison was really clear in saying that things like the VA clinic could be a focus of the work of a future contract. This is not a contract, it's just an introduction letter. And then she talks about rural broadband expansion, and that is a huge need in LaPorte County. I hear from people almost every day about their problems with broadband. So those two concepts, I guess I just would encourage the future commission and the future council to consider having those discussions. And it seems that we're basically saying, let's have that discussion. There's no contract here in front of us to consider.
So part of the motion that was made was in the verbiage you used. In addition to that, there was sending it to the council for funding was in that motion that was made. And I'm not saying there may not necessarily be some value here, as Allison pointed out very well. LaPorte County has left millions of dollars on the table. I mean, we have failed the people of LaPorte County over the past several years. There are millions of dollars left on the table for broadband because we acted slowly on that. Millions of dollars left on the table for numerous grants that we've just been missing out on. So we certainly do need next year to take a serious look at why we've been leaving, probably tens of millions of dollars on the table. We've got to do better. So if perhaps engaging their firm to help us do better is the right way to go, maybe. But at this point, again, with how vague it is, with the motion that was, the verbiage that was included for sending to the council for funding, no, there's absolutely no way I can second that. There's no way I could look at taxpayers in the eye and say we're just going to send something so broad off. Again, we quite often put the cart before the horse, and trying to just send things through and pre-approve them without even looking at them or knowing what's going on. It doesn't make sense, and it's got to stop.
You did hear the part about having a workshop with the council, right? That would explain the entire concept. It would explain everything that we're getting. And quite frankly, for those who have been on the commission for a while, we spend a lot more money than this hiring a lobbyist to get a better cut from money from the blue chip. Okay? And I don't know if we really made out very well on that or not. It was hard to say.
That's why I voted against it last time, because the time before we funded it, they wanted to almost double their pay. That's why I voted against it. It is what it is. But
if you look at, we've reported on this before, the amount of money that is paid to LaPorte County veterans in veterans benefits and entitlements every year, it's in the millions brought in from work from our veteran service officer, full-time and part-time. Having a clinic right here would at least double that amount. and have a huge economic impact on LaPorte County, and especially for our veterans. I believe that once the council hears the presentation from Allison and from Irwin Graves, they will see the value in doing this for our veterans. And until they do that, I don't blame them. They need to know what's going on. They need to know what this money is for. So I would.
If I may, as the Chief Financial Officer of LaPorte County, I would just make a financial comment, and that is, what might be valuable for the commissioners over the long run is to measure historically the type of return that you've gotten on lobbying expenses. And I know that's perhaps anecdotal. Did it make the difference or did it not make the difference? The hiring of X lobbyist or Y lobbyist. But I think it would be a very intriguing, interesting thing to get a handle on or a hold of. Is, wow, we got this $2 million that we paid $50,000 in 1 year, and we cinched and landed this deal or whatever. That would be interesting to me.
I would repeat my motion. I would make a motion for a motion of support for this contract with Irwin Graves, and with the understanding that we will have a workshop with the council to present this to them so they know what we're getting for our money.
Commissioner Haney, if I could ask too, if the engagement is limited strictly to the VA clinic, which is what I understood the initial proposal was, would that help increase the comfort level so that there are not other issues being?
As a commissioner-elect, I do believe that we are looking at 16 working days for this administration. This has not been discussed with me as a council person. I had no idea that this was happening. If Allison met with you and Mr. Merzinski and Randy Novak, that's wonderful. But I, as one of the council people, were not aware of this. Knowing that I'm gonna take office in 16 days, and you wanna have this approved right now, when we can have a workshop and have everybody in the fold, is what we should be doing.
Did you hear my motion? Maybe I'll speak louder. Part of the motion was for a workshop with the council.
Then do the workshop first and don't approve and table this for now.
Stand on my motion of support.
There you go. So you're just gonna shove this through.
Excuse me.
Even though there's gonna be a new administration coming in.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. So,
Councilwoman-elect, or Councilwoman Grammarosa, Commissioner-elect Grammarosa, is accurate in the fact that like up until yesterday, no one from their firm had talked to me, and while a week and a half ago, something like that, roughly, right while we were going to the commissioners' conference, this was emailed over. I mean, obviously, Commissioner Mateus, you looked at this, you weren't exactly sure what was in it either when the Purdue thing came up. I don't see why we can't have a workshop to discuss this and look through it and everybody get on the same page rather than have, two people trying to rail through what's here. And, over the past several months since I've taken office, I've been in contact with, between, our, rest her soul, Congresswoman Jackie Walorski and now Rudy Yocum's office, in contact with them, Senator Young's office, as well as Senator Braun's office. Obviously don't have this perfect relationship with Senator Mervan's office, but that is what it is. We'll now be part of LaPorte County, including myself. Now it's going to be moved back into Congressional District 1 here in Indiana. But the thing that I hear, and specifically in regards to this is, there aren't going to be any Congress people back in DC till well after the first of the year. So as far as rushing it through doesn't necessarily make any sense. And in addition to that, and speaking with my contacts with some of those various Congress people and senators' offices, there's nothing right now that's pending to actually lobby for. Now I get the point is to actually get in front of these things and try and get something inserted. But as of this minute, there's nothing there to actually lobby for. So I don't get the impetus to force this through when we have less than 3 weeks left in the year, as opposed to let's set up a workshop. Let's do the workshop. We'll look through it. We'll talk through it. We'll see what does and doesn't make sense. But as far as, the motion that still not even exactly sure exactly what keeps kind of morphing every time Commissioner Brzezinski says it, but there's no way we can support that. It doesn't make sense for the community. It doesn't make sense to anybody. Again, we're not arguing about the importance of having a VA clinic here in LaPorte County. The question is, does this make sense to get it here at all? Would it make more sense to just take $84,000 and say, hey, here's $84,000 that LaPorte County will give in the form of, helping to acquire land, whatever it is. Here's 84 grand to help convince the federal government that we need a clinic here in LaPorte County. Wouldn't that be better than putting in a lobbyist perhaps? I don't know. But let's have that workshop. Let's have that discussion. Let's not railroad something through with 3 weeks left in the year.
Well, I know I only went to Rolling Prairie and IU South Bend, but when I add up $5,000 a month for a lobbyist and $2,000 a month for a grant writer for 6 months, I come up with $42,000.
It says it says 6 to 12 months, and 7 times 12 is
proposed from the very beginning.
I don't think you mentioned 6 months once tonight.
I think we can get it done in 6 months if I can get a little cooperation.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Absolutely not.
Okay, I am not going to second it. In fact, I am going to, the motion dies for a lack of a second. I'm going to suggest that we table this for consideration with an addition that we request a workshop with Ms. Fike's firm of Irvin Graves and the County Council and County Commission in the coming weeks.
I would make that motion.
I already, that was a motion, sir.
As president, unless you just step down, you can't make that motion.
Okay, I step down.
Okay, then I will second the motion.
Good. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion to table has carried. Next, we have old business. Thank you, Ms. Ficus, for your presentation, and we look forward to hearing from you at a workshop session. Next, we have under old business, consider update on insurance policies and consider policy for underground storage units. Mr. Jones, Michiana Insurance.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
As promised, I came back to give you an update on the work comp progress. We did bind coverage with the incumbent Bitco. Since my last letter to you, which showed that they had credited the account $24,620, they've also contacted me as of yesterday. And between the time of the proposal and the issuing of the policy, they had a rate reduction on some of the endorsement forms on the work comp. So there's another $3,190 reduction in premium. So the bound coverage came back $27,810 less than what was approved when we first approved it here before this board. So we're at $921,439 presently bound for that first quarter. And I've got several folks in the hopper trying to quote this for the second quarter. In fact, I've got a favorable quote indication back from Key Risk. There's just some coverage that needs to be ironed out, and also some they sent along a subjectivity that required us to agree to a transitional work policy that they had. It was a one-page agreement that had 6 steps on it, and they were more of a title than they were a definition. So I've requested more information to define what they would want us to agree to. For example, one of the 6 steps was to develop a job description wish list, quote unquote, for duties and other things that they had placed on there. So I'm not saying that that's something that might not work for us, because we do have some work to do in reducing claims. So as soon as I get those definitions, I've reset them for the second quarter. I'll give them updated loss runs at that point, and we'll have what I think to be maybe a good quote from them as well as others. And then on the second item, was contacted last week by the Highway Department after their state item inspection. Required them to individually insure the storage tanks, their fuel storage tanks. They have a unleaded and a diesel tank, both both of which are two locations, 2 tanks each at the LaPorte district and the Hanna district. So I produced a quote. I've got 2 quotes. I got one from Argo and Westchester Chubb. The Westchester Chubb was the lowest and the best at $2,542, which gives them $1 million in coverage per storage tank, $2 million in the aggregate, and a separate limit for legal defense expense. And did anybody need an extra copy of those deck pages? Yeah, we got those. And then I know they had some other requirements they had to report to the state, and I believe they have till the 29th to do that. So I'm looking for approval to bind coverage on that policy so we can get them that certificate of insurance.
Okay.
And that's for the underground storage tanks, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I would move to approve the coverage for the underground storage tanks for this next period.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
If I could, Mr. Commissioner, on that, there's a new facility going in Rolling Prairie, and I spoke to them about whatever tank they place out there, that we'll have to probably add that later, but it'll be above ground. And I think they're looking for, and you'll have to have discussions with them on that, maybe doing away with the underground storage tanks and going to above ground because of a lot of other regulations that are kind of bogging down their operations out there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure, look into that. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Jones?
Yes.
You know from back when we were on the council together about the leaking underground storage tanks and how many years it took to get IDEM to sign off on that. That's a good idea to keep them above ground.
Yeah, I think so
remember
too.
that.
Yeah. And then also, and I know they will, it'll be professionally done, but then there's, you've got better protections with some diking material and things like that when they're above ground. And so,
Thank you, John.
thank you.
So we have a motion and a second to consider the policy for underground storage units and ensuring that we're protected, the public is protected. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Next, under new business, consider the invoice from Barnes & Thornburg for now canceled energy saving bond refinancing. Mr. Facenda.
Commissioner Matias, members of the commission, I wanted to make introductory remarks and then have Mr. Facenda I speak to you. You'll recall in the summer of 2021, it was the intention of the commission and the council to do a refinancing of the courthouse energy savings bonds so long as a 10-year savings of $200,000 could be assured. When the refinancing had to be postponed in November of 2021, it was hoped the refinancing might yet occur in 2022. But interest rates continue to rise, and between issuance costs and interest rate hikes, there was no feasible way to accomplish the refinancing and actually save taxpayers anywhere near the savings that were once assured. Now, B&T did all the preparatory work for the refinancing as requested. They kept hoping the transaction would close at some point in 2022. It's no longer feasible, and they need to be paid under the contract for the work performed. It has to be brought to a public commission meeting so that it can be considered by you all and then moved on from there. So that hopefully some introductory comments.
And the bill is, I think, $28,000.
That's correct.
Mr. Friedman, was there anything in that contract originally that specified their work was their fee would have been contingent upon going through with it, or no?
Yeah, I'll let Mr. Facenda.
I'm happy to address that. Phil Facenda, commissioners, and I think the question came from Commissioner Haney. So our engagement letter that was approved by the county commissioners in connection with the bond issue, and it was approved in September of last year, states that we typically are paid as bond counsel. We're typically paid at closing from bond proceeds, but it says, although we are customarily do not submit a statement until shortly after closing unless there is substantial delay in completing the transaction.
Thank you.
And so we have not, our last time entry on the bond issue, as Attorney Friedman mentioned, we did majority of this work in the fall of last year. And our last time entry on this is January of this year. So we're almost 12 months from our last time entry.
Very good. Thank you. I would move to approve this claim.
Yeah, I second it, but first I want to make sure I understand. When we wanted to refinance our energy savings bond due to the drop in interest rates, and we couldn't do that because we found out that our auditor had missed a bond payment, and we lost our A+ bond rating. So we lost the $200,000 the taxpayers would have seen, and now in the meantime to hire a firm to try to complete this, it's another $28,208.12. So
that's not exactly right. These are expenses related to the attempted bond refinance that
exactly.
you indicated,
which we couldn't do because of we lost our A+ bond rating.
No,
Did we
the
ever
loss
get
of
that back?
The loss of the bond rating occurred later, actually.
Did we ever get it back?
No, that's a process. When the treasurer's office has completed the balancing of the cash, that's when we'll have a chance of getting it back. That was why it was removed. It wasn't, that had nothing to do with my office.
At the beginning of the year, Commissioner Merzinski, the treasurer's office could not find over $9 million in LaPorte County taxpayer money. So that's why we lost our bond rating.
Oh, okay.
All right, at this time, we're trying to consider the invoice for Barnes and Thornburg for the energy saving bond refinancing. We owe them $28,000 some dollars. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's move on that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Facenda.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, consider the NICD petition to prorate property taxes, interest, fees, fines, and penalties. Mr. Parkinson, I don't know if you wanted to give a quick introduction.
If I could, fortunately, I think we have now consensus between the auditor, treasurer, and assessor on an agreed figure, along with NICD, that would fully resolve this pending tax issue. And there's been cooperation among all the offices so that we could get this resolved. And I think there's an agreed figure, and I believe even Mr. Parkinson may have brought the check today.
I brought a check with me.
Checks
good
are
morning,
good.
Madam President and Commissioners. My name is Chuck Parkinson. I'm an attorney with Harris, Welsh, and Lukeman in Chesterton, Indiana. We represent the Northern Indiana Commuter Transportation District, NICD. I'm here specifically on behalf of my partner, Chuck Lukeman, who is general counsel to the district. As you know, we are commencing and underway with construction of the double track project, which will add a second track to the single track areas of the commuter train that we operate from South Bend to Chicago. This is an important economic development project which will increase the number of trains that we can run, increase the ridership, and of course spur on economic development related to the expansion of the transit district. In LaPorte County alone, NICD has acquired 78 parcels of real estate for this project. Some of those have been through voluntary transfer, negotiation with property owners, and some of those have been through condemnation. With all transfers of real estate, there is an allocation of the responsibility to pay taxes, and these acquisitions have been no different. So what I'm here this morning to propose to you, and what we've submitted by way of a petition, is a request that you consider a proration of the taxes that have not yet been paid on these particular 78 parcels. Now, to be clear, NICD did pay all as part of the transfer of the deed. We have paid all of the delinquent taxes on all of the parcels that we've acquired by deed. What we're talking about is those taxes which have been assessed but not yet billed. And that's the proration that we're going to speak of. Because we have created a list. We provided it to you in our November 17th letter to you, a list of the 78 parcels, and then a breakdown of the proration of the taxes from the date of acquisition. Now, as you know, in any real estate transfer, we're going to be considering those taxes which are delinquent, meaning those taxes that have actually been billed but have not been paid, and those taxes which have been assessed but not yet billed. And since the assessment date in Indiana is January 1st, any real estate transfer is going to have to deal with those taxes which have actually been assessed, but a bill has not yet been issued. Now, all property that is owned by NICD as a state agency and municipal corporation is exempt from taxation. There's a specific statute in NICD's enabling legislation which provides that all of its property is tax exempt. And similarly, with the double track project, the Indiana legislature passed a statute that provided that all the property constituting the rail project is exempt from taxation. So the question is when that exemption begins. And under law, the exemption begins when NICD acquires the property. So again, since we acquired some property through voluntary transaction with the property owner, negotiation, the exchange of a deed, that acquisition date is clear. It's the date of the deed. In those instances where NICD had to go through the process of eminent domain, the law says that the date of acquisition is the date that NICD filed the complaint for condemnation. And so with the attachments to the November 17th letter, we've provided you with a breakdown for all 78 parcels in terms of what the date of the acquisition was, whether it was the transfer of the deed or the date that the complaint was filed. And so, again, when we transferred title by way of filing and recording that deed, we did pay all the delinquent taxes, those taxes which had already been billed. So the only question is, what is the amount of taxes, if any, that are owed on these parcels prior to the date that NICD acquired them? Since once NICD acquires the property, it is exempt from taxation. Now, in a typical real estate transaction that occurs in title companies all over the state of Indiana, the parties typically prorate the taxes to the date of the closing, and there is a simple calculation of what was owed by the seller and what's owed by the buyer. And we've done that. We've gone through that process. We've provided the numbers to the treasurer. And yesterday, I'm happy to report that the treasurer agreed with the numbers that we had presented to you in our letter, which indicates that should you determine that NICD is exempt from the taxation from the date of acquisition, that the taxes which would be owed by the prior owners would be approximately $49,000. So again, what I'm asking you to do is something that a statute, Indiana statute, specifically addresses. And that is that the county commissioners may cancel any taxes, fees, special assessments, and penalties against any parcel of property that is owned by another government entity, such as NICD. And we've provided the specific statutory language to you in the letter from November 17th. And so that's what we're asking. It's a simple proration for the county to accept those prorated taxes and then cancel any other taxes which may have been assessed against the property acquired by NICD from the date of acquisition. Now, I will say that in Lake County, which is really the only other county that we've been dealing with the double track properties, they've taken it a step further and they have chosen to treat these properties similar to properties which are acquired by INDOT for INDOT projects. Because there is a statute that says that regardless of the date of acquisition, all taxes which are assessed against the property acquired by INDOT for those purposes can be canceled or is considered to be canceled. And so we're not asking you to go that far. We have done the math on the proration. We're only asking that you follow the statute that we've cited in our letter to you and consider that those NICD parcels are exempt from the date of acquisition, that you accept the proration and cancel the balance of the taxes and assessments and fees owed on those particular 78 parcels. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Freeman, you said this has been vetted through yourself and the auditor, assessor, treasurer, etc.
Yes, and any motion would need to reference the fact that there's been concurrence by the treasurer, auditor, and assessor, and I suspect that, I think all three office holders would like to see that referenced in the motion. The estimate of what they were able to escrow was $49,814.92. And yes, our office has reviewed it fully and are recommending it to you as full and final settlement.
I would entertain a motion.
I would recommend, I would make the motion to accept the recommendation of the auditor, assessor, treasurer, and the attorney to approve this request.
Second.
I'm not recommending it. I'm giving concurrence, and I believe the other two officials are giving concurrence. Our approval we have to agree legally to it for you to be able to approve it. I'm not commenting one way or the other on it being good or bad. I'm giving my concurrence, and you are the executive authority to approve or not approve it. Just to clarify. Thank you.
So we have a motion to accept the property tax check from NICD for $49,814.92 to go into our general fund, and to accept it as a prorated in concurrence with the assessor, the auditor, our attorney, and the treasurer.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda, consider settlement with Frontier for damage to pool in the amount of $2,760.16. I'm not sure who's.
We've read this, so motion to approve that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. The next was the MS4 permit, general permit. We had already worked our way through that under department head comments. So commissioner comments, Commissioner Haney.
Thank you, Madam President. As Commissioner Mizzinski mentioned earlier, it is the 81st year since the cowardly attacks on Pearl Harbor, and we remember that here today. Been a busy few weeks. We've had our FEMA disaster prep meetings, a risk assessment meeting. Then just been a lot of enjoyable events and knowledgeable events from some of the fun that we had at the LaPorte County Santa Parade, or LaPorte City Santa Parade, I should say. Mayor did an excellent, and all the volunteers that put that together and the work that they do with that did an excellent job with that. There's of course the Indiana Association of County Commissioners conference. That was last week. It's a very informative conference and event. They have a number of different sessions and breakout sessions that really ring true, including some very valuable ethics information. I was also honored to address the leadership class at Michigan City Hall last Thursday, and then Thursday evening was the kind of grand reopening of the first floor and basement renovations at the Barker Mansion. If you haven't been up there and seen the work that they've done, I mean, the tradespeople that they got in there to really restore that is really something else, especially the basement. If you haven't been in the basement, I don't ever recall being in the basement there before, but they did a lot of excellent work there. Going along with that, they are going to be doing, if you're in the 46360 zip code for the next upcoming Fridays from 4 to 6, there's free admittance there if you live in the 46360 zip code up there. So Michigan City area, you get free admission on Friday evenings, which is nice for them to do as well. Of course, obviously, last weekend, Pioneer Land. Again, the volunteers and the folks who put in the work out there at Pioneer Land for all year, not just here for our Christmas celebration, but is really fantastic. I was with Jeremy last night, our park superintendent, for a Parks and Rec meeting. For all of our employees as well as veterans, next year there's going to be a 20% discount on rentals for both our employees and for our military veterans as well. I think as Savesky already covered some of the improvements to the playgrounds, including at Creek Ridge. Hopefully, maybe we'll have a couple of moderate days here coming up before Christmas. Folks can get out there and really enjoy those. A Cookie Walk in LaPorte is coming back up again. Of course, the museum, our county historical museum, will be participating in that as well on December 10th. So make sure you bring your cookie tin there between 10 and 12. And out there again on December 13th for the recognition of National Guard Founding Day. Veterans and active duty military will get free admission to the to the museum there between as well. December 17th, they're doing their church tradition between 6 and 8, which is a pretty cool thing if you haven't been there for that as well. And there's obviously multiple other holiday events coming up, from not just up in Michigan City, but all the way down through Wanata, Hannah. So definitely check out the various community social media pages and see what's coming up. I'd like to close tonight with a quote that was came around. We're all obviously familiar with the date that will live in infamy, but this is one that came shortly after the attack on Pearl Harbor from our allies in England and from Winston Churchill. He said, "You ask, what is our aim? I can answer in one word. It is victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terror. Victory. However long and hard the road may be, for without victory, there is no survival." Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Commissioner Merzinski.
Yes, I received a letter here the 6th, that'd be yesterday, from Governor Holcomb, congratulating LaPorte County for receiving our community crossings matching grant of $1 million that will be spent on roads next year. That reflects the hard work of our county planner, Mitch Bishop. Always good to get this letter from the governor for $1 million. Also have a news release here from Attorney General Todd Rokita that they have secured more than $15.7 million for Indiana as part of a multi-state settlement for the e-cigarette maker Juul. Part of the heavy discussion that I've been having with our community, healthy communities, they have kind of made up of a lot of different people in LaPorte County, but we've been having meetings to talk about the smoking situation in LaPorte County, about places that target youth for things like Juul. Very interesting conversations we've had, and I have more scheduled with them. Also met with a representative from FEMA to discuss the multi-hazard mitigation and risk assessment, which is a part of a grant for the county. I was selected to be on this committee, and it's some pretty heavy stuff. Pretty amazing. There'll be when you get all done with that, I'll be able to make a report on it. On the 19th, we met here in this room to present medals for the LaPorte County Veterans Recognition. I think we had about 25 veterans here, something we've been doing since 2004. Never gets old. And then you may have heard about or read about, a couple of weeks ago, I had several phone calls with NIPSCO and with EMA about the gas line emergency that happened on the west side of the county. Since I've retired from NIPSCO, I have contacts there, and they did an excellent job on getting that taken care of. It was a huge thing when you have almost 1,300 houses that you have to go to, shut off their gas, and then go back and relight them. Kudos to NIPSCO to work through that kind of stuff. I don't think we get a whole lot of recognition for the things you put up with when you actually work there. As Joe mentioned, we had the Commissioners Conference in Indianapolis. That's my 6th one. Always nice to see plenty of my old faces of commissioners I've gotten to know over the years, and some of the vendors. This past weekend, my wife and I went out to the Chris Kendall Market at the fairgrounds, sponsored by Bethany Church. Huge crowd. It was really quite a deal to see that many people, and it was not very warm out, I can tell you, with the wind. But what a great event that Bethany Church just continues to pull off these great events. Really cool. On the day before yesterday, in this room also, I attended the graduation for 4 people from the problem-solving court. Our speaker was Vern Honke, who did an amazing job. Things I didn't know about Vern. He brought me to tears. And I have to say, every time I go to these graduations, and you hear the story of these people who've kind of fell off the rails, and they get back on by going through this problem-solving court. Judge Friedman, Greta Friedman, not you, your lovely wife, does an amazing job, and that program is not easy. You will walk the chalk, and you will do what's done, or you're out. And it certainly beats going to jail. And one last thing about, I think it really fitting that we should talk about this on Pearl Harbor Day. You know, I've been involved with veterans as a veterans advocate. I've been a member of the VFW for 32 years. LaPorte, I think the American Legion, probably 20. I've been on the LaPorte Mayor's Veterans Committee 22 years. I've been through a lot of mayors ever since Elmo Gonzalez. And my 9 years as National Legislative Chairman. You know, we have that beautiful veterans facility in Mishawaka that I worked with Joe Donnelly and Jackie Walorski on that. We worked on that for 10 years. 10 years to get that facility, which is now going to be named after Jackie. I was just there last week for my yearly checkup. It's an awesome thing. It's loved by the veterans. And I foresee that that will come to fruition in LaPorte County, because when I set my mind that I'm going to do something positive for veterans, I don't give up, and I will not give up, and we will get this done, and I will take care of my LaPorte County veterans, and I'm going to do that as evenly and as I can do it, and as fast as I can get it done. With that, I'm done.
Thank you. I'd like to start with our LaPorte County Works program. The LaPorte County Works, which Mike Seitz does just an incredible job setting the information forth, visiting our local businesses. It's a program that we created that has two functions. One is to honor the companies who have dug their roots into LaPorte County and continue to grow and reinvest in our community. And then also to make sure that folks who are either unemployed or underemployed know that they don't have to go to another county, they don't have to go to Chicago or South Bend to find really good work in LaPorte County. And oftentimes it's work where you may be an untrained or unskilled person, and these local companies will give you the training and the skills you need to be successful. So again, we have on the county website, we have LaPorte County Works program where we list all the employers that we have highlighted. We've highlighted 2 a month for the last 20 months probably. And it's a great place to not only find out more about our community, but also find employment opportunities for you or for someone that you know. So this week we're going to highlight Eureka Chemical Labs. It's a small family-owned chemical company that specializes in industrial and janitorial cleaning products. It's located in the Kingsbury Industrial Park on Hupp Road. They have become one of the largest industrial, institutional, and janitorial maintenance cleaning supply manufacturers in the Chicagoland area. Not in the size of the company, it's a small company, but in their market share. They have a very large market share in the Chicagoland area. They sell their products in 1, 5, or 275 gallon containers. They do on-site product research and development. So I think one of the things that's really important to note is that they are doing on-site research and development and continuing to be innovative as they create new product lines. They're a great local company. They have employees who have worked with them for a long time. Their employees start at $15 an hour and goes up to $30 an hour. They have full-time and part-time employment opportunities in a wide range of skill sets, from forklift operators to line operators and chemical blenders. They are a local family company located right here in our Kingsbury Industrial Park on Hupp Road, which, by the way, we are working to get some pavement. Hopefully in our next paving cycle, we will take care of some of the roads out in Kingsbury Industrial. So please go on our website if you're interested in the new year, starting a new job or a new career. Please look at this company, Eureka Chemicals, or some of the other companies that we've previously highlighted. The only other 2 comments I wanted to mention is that the Michigan City Area Schools IT team won the Society of Innovators Sussman Award, which is it's the first time this award has been given. The award was created about 4 years ago by the Society of Innovators, and it is considered an incredibly distinguished award. So we had a presentation of the award at Michigan City area schools to their IT team. They are ensuring that every child in the Michigan City area schools has access to broadband. They've already hooked up 300 families. Their goal is 1,500 families who cannot afford or are unable to access broadband services. Kevin McGuire is the CFO at Michigan City area schools, and he's also a member of the broadband task force. So he has been lending his expertise to the county. His project is about 10 years in the making. It's not something that he just thought of. He and his team have created a really innovative ring around Michigan City where families can connect to the internet using school supplied hotspots. So I wanted to be sure that we knew that we need to commend the Michigan City area schools for creating an environment for innovation. And then if you haven't been to the Heston Steam Museum, and I will say I haven't been there in a long time, I went this past Saturday with grandchildren and family members for the Santa Claus Express. And I just have to say, they have invested so much into that property that it is a community gem, and if you haven't made a point of going there, it's a great place to bring young people, but it's also a real example of community contribution and people who are dedicated to making taking their passion and making it something that benefits the community. So if you haven't been to this Heston Steam Museum, please make sure you take a look. With that, have a good day. Thank you.